Hello, Robert Kiyosaki. I'm going to be talking about this book here with my co-author, Ted Siddell. So Ted's not going to be on this call, but I think it's important that I continue on anyway. And at the back of Who Stole My Pension, which came out in 2020, it says, what is America's number one export? And America's number one export is fake money. We print money, and these financial planners sell you bonds and all that. And there's a law called Stein's Law. And Stein's Law says, what will come to an end will come to an end. And the reason I want to talk about this here is my generation, the boomer generation, is screwed because we trusted these financial planners. We trusted these pensions. You know, they trusted the teachers union pension. They trusted the Teamsters union pensions. And those guys are turning out to be some of the bigger crooks. And these financial planners will tell you bonds are safe and all that. They're lying to you. Not true. There's nothing safe in the business today because America's number one export is fake money. We print money, and I think we're printing $1 trillion, but every 90 days or something. And the reason you can print money is you first have to create a bond, a U.S. Treasury bond. And these financial planners and pensions buy them like crazy. They basically say that bonds are safe. They're not safe. Nothing's safe. Stupidity isn't safe. And so that's why I founded Rich Dad, the cash flow board game over here. So you can at least educate yourself. You know, don't even believe me. The very simple reason is very few people can do what I do. You see, most people, you look behind me, this is called the rat race. And that's where schools tell you to go to. You know, go to school, get a job, work hard, save money, and They're lying to you. They're lying to you. Look, what's coming, ladies and gentlemen, is called AI, artificial intelligence, and super artificial intelligence. So in the next 5 years, you won't need attorneys, which is a good idea. You won't need accountants. Like even today, I can do contracts without attorneys using AI. And so all those A students, who, went to school and became attorneys and accountants and even doctors are becoming obsolete because of AI. Then you add Bitcoin to this whole message. And Bitcoin, like I said, is real money in a world of fake money. So Bitcoins, people say, well, it's not as safe as Well, Bitcoin is safer than the US dollar. I'm not saying it's safe. I won't lie to you there. But Bitcoin and Ethereum are safer than the fake US dollar because America's biggest export is fake money. Like I said, every 90 days, we print $1 trillion in fake money. And my academic relatives, they always say, well, we save money. Well, if you read Rich Dad, Poor Dad, I put savers are losers. You don't save money because they're printing it. Why would you save something they're printing? So when people say, well, the price of gold is going up, it's not that the price of gold is going up. The purchasing power of the dollar is coming down. So why do you save dollars? So that's why I'm not saying Bitcoin is safe or Ethereum safe, but it's safer than the dollar. And this book here at Ted Siddell, it says here something like this is, he was named the 40 most influential people in the U.S. pension industry. Ted Siddell, who's blowing the whistle on our fake pensions, like our teachers union pensions, CalPERS and all those criminal operations that supply the teachers and firefighters and police officers their pension, they're stealing from you. Those bankers are stealing from you. Hello, Robert Kiyosaki, the Rich Dad Radio Show. Our friend is longtime friend, Doug Casey. He and I, we talk at different places, but we finally met, Doug. I think it was at the Nomad Capitalist show in Cancun or something like that, where we went face to face.
I think you're right. I think that was during the great COVID hysteria, wasn't it?
Anyway, it was good to go face to face finally, but now and then, by the way, Doug has a the good sense to live in Argentina and Uruguay and America. So he has a unique perspective on the world. And I'm helping him. This is his latest book here called The Preparation. And I told him I would help plug the book. Doug, I think the name of this book should be called The Preparation to be a Soldier of Fortune.
I guess that's one of the reasons I wrote the book. It's in the book. What we're trying to do is tell young men why they should not misallocate 4 years of their time and a whole bunch of money to go to college and be indoctrinated with absolutely sick ideas in a cesspool and use that time to pick up skills and, in effect, turn themselves into a Renaissance man.
Yeah, I meet so many American men who sit in the basement playing video games, hoping their 401k works. What is wrong with you?
Well, I don't know. They're acting like houseplants. And acting like a houseplant is not a good survival strategy for a human, especially not in the kind of times that we're headed into right now. And I'm wondering, Robert, whether the assassination of Charlie Kirk is one of those tipping points, much like the assassination of JFK was back in 1963. It might be.
And that's one of those questions I was going to ask you. As an American sitting in South America, looking into our country, what do you see? What's going on in?
I hate to say it because I love America. It's a unique country. It's the only country in world history that was founded on the principles of free speech and free minds and free markets. But I'm afraid that it's become corrupt and degraded. And I think we're in for something I call the Greater Depression, a period of time when most people's standard of living drops significantly. And I think it's going to be much different and much longer than what we had from 1929 to 1946.
Yeah.
And worse also.
And so we're going in that direction. You know, since you and I are now the senior citizens of this generation, how are you prepared for it? I mean, or what would you recommend a person prepare for it? You know, if you save the dollar, America is printing $2 trillion a year, like Zimbabwe was.
Yeah.
Why would you save the dollar?
It's crazy to save the dollar, but you have to save. It's important to produce more than you consume and save the difference. But what do you save it in? You can't save dollars. They're hot potatoes. It's an IOU nothing on the part of a bankrupt government. So I've used gold and silver as savings vehicles forever. So I bought my first gold at around $40 an ounce, and I've never sold an ounce. So I still have it all, and lots of silver. I hate to advise people to buy gold now because before it was obviously depressed relative to everything else. Now it seems to me gold is more or less where it should be relative to cars, houses, clothes. I think it could go 10 to 1 from here for different reasons, but not because it's underpriced. But you have to save. The problem is, what do you save in now? It's a tougher situation than people have ever been in before, I think. I think silver is still relatively underpriced. It's going higher.
Yeah. And then you know what Buffett's been saying, which is a concern that I have. He says the worst thing that's going to hit the boomer generation with their 401ks is inflation.
Yeah.
No matter how much they have in their 401k, and we're spending $2 trillion more than we pull in. They're probably
that's right. I mean, you buy your average stock, and maybe it's yielding 2 or 3%, something like that. Yeah. But the dollar is losing value. You can't believe the government's figures. You can't believe the U.S. government's figures any more than you can believe the Argentine government's figures. The dollar is losing value in real terms in between 5 and 10% per year. So what do you do? I know real estate has always treated you extremely well because it's a real asset. But is real estate getting overpriced too?
Well, you can always find a bargain. You know what I mean? That's what I like about real estate. There's somebody always in the sell mode.
It's
But
true.
this
It's an illiquid market.
is another question I want to ask you, because being in Argentina, this guy Javier Milei, he took the chainsaw. When you saw Trump and Musk get together, was there a glimmer of hope from you?
Listen, I was a huge fan of Doge and what Musk wanted to do, but Doge has basically disappeared, and Trump is spending money like a drunk sailor at this point. So no
Wait,
wonder his
Doug,
relation with Musk
Doug,
is not
may I
what it
correct,
once
Doug, may I
was.
correct you? Drunk sailors spend their own money.
That's a good point. That's a good point.
Keep going, keep going.
Well, Doge is the only thing that could save the U.S. government from total and abject bankruptcy and defaulting on all of its obligations, which is going to happen. But the problem is that Argentina had one of the worst economies in the world, and the people got totally fed up, and they elected Javier Milei, who said that he wanted to take a chainsaw to everything the government does.
Yeah.
And he did wonderful things. He fired scores of thousands of worthless government employees, cut the budget in many places, but he's made some mistakes. Like he said he was going to abolish the central bank, their equivalent to the Fed in this country. He didn't do it. Big mistake. He should have defaulted on all of Argentina's foreign debts. Why? That money was all stolen by the previous administration. So he shouldn't. You shouldn't turn the next generation of Argentines, or for that matter, Americans, into serfs, paying off debt that was pissed away, quite frankly. So he should have defaulted on that. And now he's borrowing more money from the U.S. government. Well, of course, the U.S. government doesn't have the money either. It's printing up the money. So I don't know. I love Argentina, and it's as a place to hang out. It's one of the best in the world. But I hope Milei doesn't blow it by losing the plot, which is basically taking a chainsaw to the government.
We'll be right back.
I wrote years ago that the biggest crash in world history was coming. The crash is happening now. Baby boomers are losing their retirements. Many will be forced to move in with their kids. It breaks my heart. I have warned you about this for decades. The problem is simple. People trusted paper assets. They believed saving dollars was safe, but inflation is destroying their savings. Cash is turning to trash. The only way out is with real assets, gold, and especially silver. Silver just broke $50 an ounce. $75 could be next. Maybe even $100. That's why I want you to get the Rich Dad 2025 Silver Forecast Guide. You will learn why silver's rise is only the beginning and how to move part of your IRA or 401k into physical silver, tax-free, penalty-free. Call 866-703-9895 or text SILVER to 24999. The crash is here. Do not wait until your savings disappear. Call 866-703-9895 or text SILVER to 24999. Silver is real money for a world in crisis.
Well, hello, Robert Kiyosaki. And today I have a very special guest, longtime friend, and person I have tremendous respect for in an offhanded way is Harry Dent. And the reason I like Harry Dent is no bullshit. He will change his point of view if he has to change his point of view. So I don't have to worry about there being 3 or 4 Harry Dents out there. There's one Harry Dent at that moment, and he will tell you whatever he's thinking to be true for him at this moment. Popular? or unpopular. And I was paid the highest honor, Harry, that's saying, you're as pessimistic as Harry Dent. And I said, God, what a compliment that is. It's because a lot of people have Pollyanna, all the stocks, S&P is going up forever, bonds are safe. You can trust the Federal Reserve Bank. I'm going, what? And so Harry Dent is a man who will tell you what's going on for him. It may be popular, it may be unpopular, but he will tell you what he thinks at this moment. So Harry, welcome to the Rich Dad Radio Show.
Yeah, nice to be here, Robert.
When you and I were kids, America was the richest country in the world. Today, we're the biggest debtor nation in the world. And for us to say, oh, don't worry, the Fed can keep printing, I think is a lie. I don't know what you think. But we're printing, $1 trillion every 2 months or something like that. And as you say, that what's that law? Some law says, if it'll end, it'll end. So that's what I like about you is that you're up to the minute. You're a demographer, which means you look at what demographics are saying, and you will tell us what you think at this moment. And a year from now, you may change. I respect that. So Harry, be as pessimistic as you like. I love it.
Well, here's the simple story here. When I started forecasting the early 80s, I might get the greatest criticism for? I was unbelievably bullish, and not on Japan back then, on the United States of America. So,
I remember.
Japan had come along and taken a lot of our older industries because they were much more efficient and all that stuff. And I said, but Japan is the fastest aging developed country in the world. They're the ones that are going to go down after 1990, and we're going to have the greatest boom in history. Why? We have the greatest generation ever to hit the earth, called the baby boom generation back then. Still is. It just now they're aging and they're no longer driving the economy. But this couldn't have been simpler. And because I didn't have a PhD in economics, which economists criticize me for, I was simple enough to say, oh, here's a good indicator. I know for certainty U.S. statistics, and only the U.S. has the best statistics studying consumers every year, surveys. The average person enters the workforce 20 and spends the most at 46. So all I got to do to see the future is take the birth index and move it forward 46 years from when the highest amount of people will be spending the most money. Extremely simple. Well, I started doing that in the early 80s, and boy, did I get blowback. When I was bullish and stuff. Oh my God, no, you don't understand. We're not going to have any industries left. Japan and East Asia are going to take them all over. I said, no, look at their demographics. They peak in the late 80s, early 90s and fall off a cliff forever. And they're still falling off that cliff, by the way. And
Harry,
first thing I learned, you can't just learn at the trend.
You introduced the world to a very important word, demography.
Yes. People do predictable things as they age in particular.
Yeah.
So, if I'm the economy, do I want a 5-year-old screaming all the time and crapping in their diapers and costing all this money and having to see doctors and then, getting over the cost of the birth thing? Or do I want a 46-year-old to peak their career spending the most money and just getting their kids out of college so they can turn around and do the same thing next round for the next generational boom? And boy, do I want a bunch of old people? Ooh, no, ask Japan. Japan is, came out of nowhere, took over the earth for a short period of time. They were the ones that got old first. And since I was studying demographics, that was obvious to me that Japan was playing a catch-up game. I kept saying when I was lecturing in the 80s, hey, yes, Japan's doing great, but what industries are they taking over? Steel, okay? Old industries, okay? Who's leading high-tech information technology, personal computers, Microsoft software? It's us. And who's producing the customized products that go for a premium? So I don't know. I just learned because I didn't study economics, Robert. I had a major in economics, and after the third course, I said, this is conceptual, vague, boring. Nobody likes it. I can't even, learn much from it. And my father's best friend say, what we wish we had done, little Harry? They called me. They said, we wish we'd have studied accounting and finance. That's what kills us in business. We know how to market. We know how to manage. We're people. We can't figure out the damn numbers, and read our own balance sheets and P&L. So that's what I majored in college. But I always had my eye on Harvard Business School or Stanford. And I knew I wanted to get an MBA, and I was going to take what I call the important marketing management, big picture stuff there. And that's what I did, and I started with a major in economics and quit it after that third course and studied everything else about business. And then I worked at Bain and Company, consultant to Fortune 100 companies that were failing back then because of the Eastern and global competition. And then I couldn't work with big companies. They were just too slow. So I jumped off. I took a job turning around a publishing company in California. And then after that, I got one job after the next. All small businesses do is fail. That's why they're so productive. Failure, by the way, is the secret to success. Tolerance.
Amen, brother. Amen.
Makes entrepreneurs and the most successful people, because most people, as Elon Musk said recently, will quit after the first major failure. So I turned around 6 companies in difficulty in the 1980s, consulted a lot of small businesses, and then started my own business around my newsletter in 1989, and never went to an office again. Still sitting right now in my den doing my work on my computer in Puerto Rico, looking over the water, not close to anything. I could be in Lincoln, Nebraska, and so that just happened naturally. But I learned that the key thing is the truth. If you dig hard enough, you can find the truth about anything. People kept telling me, Harry, nobody can predict the economy that far out. There's too many things that can change. The president, I don't care who's president. I have never cared who's president. They make differences in some areas here and there. I've never had to rely on that to predict. It's 300 million people in the United States growing up, costing everybody money and causing trouble when they're young, but learning rapidly, entering the workforce, getting better and better and better, more and more productive. That's 20 to 46. And then plateauing in the middle life, into the mid 50s, and then slowly declining into retirement and then disappearing. And all of those stages have their pros and cons. Who invests all the money? The people from 50 to 63 when they enter retirement. Okay, they're the ones that invest the most, but who spends the money? 20 to 46. Now it's 47 in most countries. And this is what makes the economy macro so predictable. 46-year lag on the birth index. Only hard about that is I have to adjust for immigration, and I can do that accurately. It's just
so
hard.
Harry, that's why I respect you, because you will tell it the way it is, as you call it, as you see it. So my question is what do you see coming for America, then Japan and Germany? Because I was just traveling, I traveled the world. And you remember not too long ago, Japan and Germany were our enemies.
Yeah.
They became trading partners. But today, Germany and Japan and America, as you say, our demographics are changing. And what's that mean to the world when Germany, Japan, and America's demographics change? What do you see coming?
Well, very simply, Northern Europe and North America have the best demographics in the developed world. East Asia, and this includes China, even though they're not a developed country yet, but Korea, Japan have the worst. Okay, when for some reason, when people in East Asia get affluent, they not only have less babies, they have a lot less babies. Everybody that gets affluent basically starts to think about money and think about their kids getting into a good school and them making money. And that means they don't want to have 4, 5, 6 kids as they did in the good old days in the 30s, 40s, and 50s. Okay. They want to have 1 or 2 kids and get them into Harvard or Stanford or whatever. Okay. And so affluence actually eventually slows countries because there's fewer kids. So if you're not having kids or if you're not like the United States where, hey, we're having fewer kids, but we are strong on immigration, and Australia is even stronger than us, and New Zealand, Australia, if I looked at their charts, their demographics, and didn't know they were rich like us, not quite as rich, but neither, I would think they were an emerging country. Why? They're getting constant flow of immigration not from South America and Mexico, from East and Southeast Asia, where everybody loves those workers. So they've got high quality and high quantity of immigration. So between births and immigration, and I've got a bell curve of immigrants, Robert. It took me some work on that, but I did my research, and I can take the immigrants coming in the country and distribute them back to when they were born as if they'd always been in that country. So that same birth index that I lagged forward 46 years and will tell me almost 50 years in advance who's going to boom the most and when, and who's going to bust and when, works even better when I can calculate an immigrant. So that's how simple the economy can be.
We'll be right back. Hello, Robert Kiyosaki, Rich Dad Radio Show, and today, not coming to you from Scottsdale, Arizona. I'm coming from a place called Gainesville, Texas, and I'm a very special guest today. This guy is the godfather right now. His name is Rick Rule, and every time I see him, I'm in awe of how much I learned from him. And he's extremely respected in the mining field, gold and silver. My partner, Marin Katusa out of Vancouver, speaks so highly of Rick. And I last saw Rick, I think, in Rebel Capitalist. And now I meet you here. And Rick, it's an honor to have you on the Rich Dad Show. So thank you.
Well, my honor, Robert. I'm a huge fan of that book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Before we went on the air, I said I sort of think it is the obligation of old folks like you and I to prepare the younger generation, to teach them for the mess that we're leaving them in terms of the economy and the political economy. So thank you so much for just talking common sense to young folks.
So just the reason Rick is so important is, I think with 65, I was holding up a $50, and it was no longer silver, it was copper. And as the Mexicans say, ¿qué pasa? What are they doing? And that was Gresham's Law. And then in 71, I was a Marine helicopter pilot, and we were flying out of Vietnam. And I went to buy gold behind enemy lines, proving Marines aren't the smartest guy on earth. And I walked up to I was behind enemy lines. Rick, we disarmed, my co-pilot and I. We put our hands up and walked through the village. And we said, we don't come as Marines, we come as capitalists. We just want to buy some gold. And we walked up to this little bamboo shack. And those little Vietnamese women and their teeth were bright red because they eat beetle nuts. And gold, they had just taken gold off the gold standard. It was going from 35 to 50. So I thought I could get a discount. And I got schooled, Rick. She schooled me. She goes, spot. Tell spot. And she goes, spot. So I didn't get any gold that day. But also, but you learn a lot when you start doing stupid things. I went to Hong Kong and I bought my first Krugerrand from South Africa. And then I found out I had to smuggle it into the States. I mean, could you imagine that, Rick? I mean, that's how old I am. Gold was illegal for Americans to own. And then the last thing, Rick, I was coming out of Japan not too long ago, and they didn't care if I was carrying fentanyl. They wanted to know if I was carrying any gold. So it was a long way to introduce my friend Rick Roll here. He's a guy I look to when it comes to information and advice and trends in the marketplace. So welcome to the Rich Dad Radio Show.
Pleasure to be with you, as I say. It's those anecdotes are interesting because there are so many lessons there. The universal appeal of gold as a medium of exchange that's similarly a store of value.
If you ever wanted to get rich quick, don't miss this boat. Do you know what I mean? It's shoving off right now. And if you're still saving fiat or fake money, like I hate to say this being Japanese, they save cash and they love cash. And I've always saved gold and silver.
And I just knew, once I understood what Nixon was doing and what I think Johnson took the silver out of our coins, I said, why would you save fiat, fake money? And that was kind of my wake-up call. And I've gotten very rich just because I don't save cash. I save gold and silver. And that's the difference.
I think the demonstration of that isn't just this last year where gold has done well. People on shows like this for a long time asked me when gold was going to move. And I'd scratch my chin sagely, Robert,
Jeez.
and I'd say, well, I think gold's going to move in the year 2000. It's up 9% compounded for 25 years. Gold is two things. Gold is about not getting poor slowly. And if you're aggressive, and if you can afford to be aggressive in silver, which tends to outpace gold when a bull market really truly gets underway, and if you're willing to work hard and invest in the gold stocks or silver stocks, which tend to even outpace the metal, albeit with much greater risk and much greater volatility. What you say is very, very, very true. Anybody who looks at the graph of the XAU or any of the gold and silver indexes understands that when you move into a real precious metals bull market, the upside volatility is unlike almost any other financial market on the planet.
Well, it's exactly as you said. How do you get poor? Slowly at first and then suddenly. Well, it works the other way too. I hate to say this. I'm going to say something very sacrilegious, Rick. I sold 4.5 million in gold, but my basis cost was 300.
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
Right.
And I paid cash for my house. So I walked into this house. I said, I'll take it. And my gold is stored in a place called Liechtenstein because I don't want to be in 1933 again where they take my gold.
Right.
So I just walked in and I said, so I paid 4.5 million. My basis is 450,000.
Right.
Just because of when I bought it. And your date is exactly correct. It was 2000. You know what I mean?
Hugely important lesson. But one of the things I do is I maintain an alternative statement of account as a thought exercise, and I have since the year 2000, measuring my income, my net worth, and my expenses in both gold and dollars. And if you do that, what you're struck by is how cheap food is, how cheap gasoline is.
Yeah.
If you measure it in the golden constant, price of gold was at $250, $255 an ounce in 2000. You're astonished by the difference in value between your gold savings and your dollar savings.
Yeah. Today gold is $3,400, and in 2000 it was about 300.
Right.
And then today silver is about 38. I remember it was $1 or something. So let's finish up because what's the definition of a liar? It's a gold prospector saying next to a hole. And I've taken companies public. I took a silver mine public, and then we sold it to Yamada. And then I took a gold mine public in China. I took it on the Toronto Stock Exchange. And guess what? The Chinese nationalized. Right. So I don't eat Chinese food anymore. You know what I mean? But Rick, I found out the hard way what the word country means. You know what I mean? If you don't do business in countries, they don't respect the rule of law.
Right.
It's very simple. And then I took a gold mine public with Baron Katusa in Salt Lake City, and I felt a lot happier because we're on American soil.
Well, I need to say it depends on where in American soil. The biggest single experience with political risk that I've ever had personally was discovering a mine that went under produce 2 million ounces of gold. Sadly, in the People's Republic of California, 7 miles from the wrong side of the California-Nevada line.
Yeah.
And that was an experience I will never forget. I've actually personally been treated better in Congo than California. Basically, I agree with you about the American concept of the rule of law, but I would prefer myself to be in Texas, Wyoming, Nevada, or Alaska as opposed to the other states.
Well, that's why it's a World Investment Conference. And the thing I loved about your conference is that you have real people there. You know, you don't have a bunch of fund managers.
It'll be a pleasure to have you there.
I'd be honored. I mean, I love it. I love it.
Fantastic.
Because I've been Rick, I was one of those guys, the putzing around, talking to the miners and all this. I think nothing.
Right.
But that's how I learned. I talked to the miners. And last thing I want to ask you is that if people are talking about silver now, your opinion on that. But also, isn't there, this is what I understand. Gold goes first, then silver, then the miners. I mean, is there something like that? Is that the sequence or order of fire?
My experience, Robert, is that precious metals bull markets are led by gold. They're led by physical gold, and they're led by fear buyers.
Yeah.
They're led by people.
Pessimists.
Maybe pessimists, maybe not. Just people who don't like the arithmetic of fiat currency denominated securities. I'm one of them.
Yeah, me too.
When the momentum in the bullion begins to expand the producer's margins, the big gold stocks move next. And we've seen that. Franco, Wheaton, Agnico Eagle, they've all doubled in 12 months. At some point in time, that movement, that momentum attracts the generalist investor into the gold space.
Yeah.
And the gold space is so small, it can't accommodate the money. When that happens, leadership goes from gold to silver. And by the way, you will not need Robert Kiyosaki or Rick Rule to tell you when that happened.
This podcast is a presentation of Rich Dad Media Network.